Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to compare every Dendro character in Genshin's story as to how they got the vision with the equivalency for Gnosticism. So I'm gonna go step by step through every single character possible, starting with Dendro since it's the easiest one and it's also the first one. So though I already explained all of this in my Tree of Life video, you don't have to watch that because I'm gonna give you all the necessary context for Dendro specifically in this video. So in my previous videos I had put forth that the Wisdom Sephiroth in the Tree of Life and Gnosticism matches with the Dendro Vision. It is both for wisdom and also the similarities of how you acquire it and the things they stand for. Each and every single Sephiroth has a whole world of meaning behind it, but this is just the gist of each one of them. So the Wisdom Sephiroth is supposed to be about experience and the seed of an idea, as well as insight, inspiration, and intuition. This one is supposed to be the purest form of manifestation because this one is the first one in creation. This one is supposed to be spiritual, creative, and even transcendent. In order to unlock any Sephiroth in Gnosticism or to unlock a vision in Genshin, theoretically if it matches, it's supposed to be that your soul is already in tune and resonating with the frequencies of these words and these meanings I just said. This is how your soul is. It's not just doing one task that awards you this vision. I would say it's kind of like 3 specific things you need for every single vision to be unlocked. First, you already have to be resonating with a specific type of Sephiroth or vision, which I already explained. The second thing you need is sovereignty and self-governance. You can't be the type of person that sits around and waits for other people to take initiative and to do everything. You can't sit around praying for the gods to come save you. You have to take initiative and do it yourself. You have to have the kind of mindset that you know that things aren't only possible, but that they're actual. You need to be the one to stand up and to get shit done. This is the second thing, and a very important thing to get any single vision at all. Without this mentality, you can't get a vision. The third thing that each and every Sephiroth needs is completely different to each and every different Sephiroth or vision. So the key action that one needs to unlock this Dendro Vision or this Wisdom Sephiroth is you're either supposed to fix an imbalance in you, which are one of these things that you're lacking, or you need to do an action or achieve some knowledge, but it has to be monumental enough that it's giving you spiritual knowledge. You're getting spiritual enlightenment from either this action or this knowledge. So acquiring this gnosis, this spiritual enlightenment, is going to basically see past the Archon's egotistical desire, which is basically clouding you from being able to get this vision or unlocking the Sephiroth in the first place. In Genshin, I think this is accidental just because it's their nature. They're not doing it in a malicious manner. So for instance, in Genshin, the people of Teyvat, they believe that to get the Dendro Vision, you need to follow the example of the Dendro Archon, right? And she's of wisdom. And therefore, if you acquire enough wisdom, perhaps you would get a Dendro Vision, right? But that is not how it works, because that is that Archon's egotistical desire, is to accumulate wisdom. If that was the case, that all you need to do is to get enough wisdom and you would unlock it, wouldn't more people in the academy have it? But almost none of them do. It's because that is not how you obtain it. For instance, how Reina, a ranger who's not a scholar, was able to obtain a Dendro Vision right before our eyes, while scholars, top scholars in the academy, who might have pursued intellectual studies their entire life, can't obtain one. Because the trick to it, the key that you need, and it has to be completely sincere, is you have to have self-sacrifice, self-nullification. It has to be with your pure and honest intent that you are sacrificing yourself for the greater good of this other person, this other thing, or these people. It doesn't necessarily imply that you have to die sacrificing yourself. It's just that you have completely no regard for yourself in this moment, and all you purely and honestly see is helping that other person. Nothing else matters to you but that is how you obtain a Dendro Vision. That is how you unlock this Wisdom Sephiroth. Now that you understand how it's supposed to theoretically work in Gnosticism, and therefore how it should be working in Genshin if it is aligning correctly, let's take a look at each single character's story as to how they obtain their vision to see if they actually hold up, at least in the Dendro category so far. So starting with Reina, her little Aranara friend, he lost his memory, and basically the easy thing to do would have been to just walk away and cut ties, forget about it, right? But she actually sacrifices herself because mentally and emotionally exhausting to deal with someone that has something like Alzheimer's or dementia, where they can just lose any important data that they have, any moment that they shared with you. They can completely forget you exist. This is so draining, and she just sacrifices herself to be like, you know what, I don't care what toll this is gonna take on me, having you constantly forget our relationship. I'm gonna be there for you and keep reminding you every step of the way. Everything. This is selflessness. This is self-sacrificing. This is when she got her vision, and this is why she got her vision. So next up is Kali. So the way that Kali got her vision is there was a missing child that got lost in the forest, and then there was this downpour of rain. So there was a lot of people out there looking for her, rangers and search dogs and stuff like that. But again, it was pouring rain, it's dark. Kali saw that the mother was frantic, and even though she has a sickness, Kali has a sickness, therefore it is unwise for her herself to be out there. In case you don't know, like 3 hours of exposure to, you know, rain and cold, but your body's not designed for that. About 3 hours of that will kill any human being. That's what gets most hunters and campers and hikers and stuff like that. They're not aware that if your cotton clothes gets wet and you're just out there for too long, that alone will kill you. But a ranger would know better. So Kali was fearing this, and what she did is she chose. She's like, I'm not concerned about what may happen to me. I'm worried about what may happen to this child. A quick note is that perhaps the wise thing to do in this situation would to just be to let the other rangers and the search dogs handle this themselves. Kali, however, could not stomach to do nothing. She had to take initiative because she felt that like an extra pair of eyes out there, extra pair of ears, or maybe she'll be the lucky one to run into the child or whatever. And she did find the child. She did save the child. But this self-sacrifice, this selflessness, this disregard for your own well-being in comparison to the well-being of your target, of the person you're trying to save or help, is more important to you. This is why she got a Dendro vision. This is how she got a Dendro vision. Next, let's talk about Tignati. So his is a little bit more tamed as to how he got his Dendro vision. So it was during a conference where someone's basically like teaching or giving a lecture or something like that, and they're explaining something. He, however, noticed that there was an error in what the teacher was saying, and he noticed that nobody else was realizing this. The teacher didn't notice this, the students didn't notice this, nobody really realized it. And he was contemplating, like, should I say something or should I not say something? Because it's kind of like disrespectful to the teacher to kind of like correct him, or you're gonna seem like a know-it-all, or maybe you may get kicked out or something, or also perhaps it may end up being that you are in fact the one that's incorrect, and then you just make a fool of yourself in front of everyone, perhaps. So what he ended up doing was he's like, you know what, I have to correct this. It's not because I know he's wrong and, you know, I want to prove that I'm right. It's not about that. It was like he doesn't want the other students to go home with this misinformation, you know, with this faulty knowledge that it's incorrect. He can't let this stand. He has to fix this. He has to make sure that they go home understanding this correctly. So even though this is a very small in comparison to the other stories, this is nonetheless still an example of selflessness. He is basically sacrificing his character, as people may now view him as disrespectful or like a know-it-all or like someone that just has to try to backseat teach or something like that. Like, it sounds dumb, but he is technically sacrificing himself. He doesn't want to put himself in that spotlight, but he just couldn't sit there and do nothing and let these people go home with this knowledge that's incorrect. He has to fix it. For them, he has to take this blow, whatever it is, to himself for the greater good of them. And this is how he got his vision. As simple as it may seem, this is still an example of selflessness. Okay, so next up is Hisham. This one's a little bit more complicated, but I'll go into detail about why later. First, let me explain to you how he got his Dendro vision actually. So he was researching something, and I'm gonna have to read it to you, even though like I sound like a robot when I read. Bear with me please, just so you understand what he was reading. The value of language is not limited to words. A unified language helps to govern its thoughts. Language is the bottom line, rules, weapons, and violence. By making our language unique, we can open up a special path to the relative completion of minds. Governing thoughts may appear meaningless to some, but to others, it has very significant meaning. Individuals' pursuit of uniqueness gives rise to various languages and media. People are controlled by language under many circumstances. So Hisham read this book from cover to cover, and underneath the very book he was reading was his vision. This is how he acquired his Dendro vision. So he didn't take an action. This was enlightenment that he had obtained, either from understanding that book completely or his interpretation of what it was meaning to him, or the thoughts it triggered in his mind. Whatever the case may be, it granted him the Dendro vision. So theoretically, since the other ones were aligning so far, I feel it's a pretty safe assumption to assume that this one as well was selfless. So he is kind of like a strategist. He plans things in his mind way ahead of time, how to defeat an opponent with as minimal effort as possible, possibly even to win without fighting, or for both sides to succeed without a single drop of blood being shed. And this is kind of something I want to talk about here, because there is a misconception here that even I fell victim to myself. You see, Hisham comes off as some like, I don't care about anything kind of person. Like he says something, I think at the end of the Archon quest, after you save Nahda, he says something like, I only did it because whatever, like it was my job or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember the feeling I got from him, where I was like, wow, you're such selfish. Where this like innocent, helpless young little girl, which sure she's like 500 years old, but still that's how I view her. And you don't really care about her. You didn't really do this for her greater good. Like, what's wrong with you? I instantly disliked him, and I would not roll for this character because of this very reason. But in truth, it's actually a mistake, because he's lying. He's lying his ass off, honestly, guys. He's not cold-hearted and emotionless. He's not without concern for others. He's supposed to have all of those requirements I said about Dendro in the past. All of these traits that all the other Dendro users have, he has as well. He is a selfless person. But for some reason, he wants people's perception of him to be like this, that he's cold and he doesn't care about anything, when in reality, he cares too much. So next up is Yao Yao. So the way that Yao Yao got her vision, unless I'm mistaken, because I'm just so tired that I'm reading this wrong, or I missed something. But it seems to me that she went up on a mountain and started to contemplate like how visions can be obtained, kind of thing. And then she realized that there was a dog who had followed her all the way up there. And her first reaction was just to like hug him. So if this is true, and this is the case of how she got her vision, either it was her contemplating what she was contemplating, or it was her hugging the dog. Let me explain why in Yao Yao's case, it doesn't matter what the heck she was doing to obtain a Dendro vision. She would have gotten one regardless if she was brushing her teeth or combing her hair. Yao Yao completely embodies the whole point of what the wisdom Sephra is supposed to be about, of what the Dendro vision is all about. If for some reason Nahda ceased to exist, like she leaves the Irminsul tree and moves on to the plane of light, or simply just dies or whatever, and then the Dendro Archon title has to fall to somebody else, Yao Yao is then the next strongest candidate to actually take that mantle. In all honesty, everything Yao Yao thinks, breathes, and does is selflessness. But let's make sense of her story just so you can see. So how is just hugging a random stray dog selfless, right? It's because she had no regard for her own self. Like, for instance, that dog could have attacked her. She didn't know that dog. That dog could have fleas or ticks or something. There's so many things that could have gone wrong in that situation, but she didn't even consider any of that. She's just like, oh, this dog, what do dogs want? They want attention and affection. They just want to, you know, get our acceptance. And that's what she did. She just smothered him with love because that is what she knew he wanted. That's what dogs always want. So she gave it to him in complete disregard for her own safety. And then she gets a Dendro Vision. But it doesn't matter because everything she does is selfless. It was just a matter of time before she got a Dendro Vision. It could have been her doing anything she does because everything she does is selfless. Yao Yao also has a similar relationship with Chi Chi as Reina has with her Aranara friend, where Chi Chi keeps forgetting her and her friendship, but she just keeps enduring, even saying that she'll always be there to remind her of their relationship and of her. That is who Yao Yao is. So next is Nahda, the Dendro Archon herself. So I know she technically never obtained the vision at any point, but she was still born an Archon, and therefore all of these traits, has to be imbued with them. They have to resonate out of her. This is her very instincts. It's because the whole Dendro power, the ability, the whole Wisdom Sephiroth is all of that energy is her kind of thing. It is in going through her. She has no choice. This is her raw animal instincts kind of thing. However, if you need an example of her selflessness, there are countless examples of it. First, let's go to Rukkhadevata, where she basically sacrifices herself for the greater good of everyone, including the next Nahda herself, which was a very painful blow for me. However, if you want some comfort for this topic specifically, technically, if Genshin is doing Gnosticism, and I completely believe that they are, then technically Rukkhadevata isn't gone. She's just released from the Irminsul tree. The Irminsul tree is basically recycling all the data and souls and energy. But since Rukkhadevata has been severed from that, she is where? She is in the realm of light, because that's where creatures of light go. They don't just cease to exist, they go to the realm of light. She's technically free out of this trap. If anything, everyone should be crying for the rest of us that are stuck in here, in this hellhole, because that's how it's supposed to be. Oh, she's actually free in the heavens, looking down on us, basically rooting on young Nahda to basically do the same and eventually get out of there. But let's continue with more examples of selflessness. For instance, the first time we actually meet Nahda, she's with Denyazard, right? And she basically, what happens in there? She ends up sacrificing her own power to try to hold on to her soul just for a little bit longer, hoping that it could actually save her life at the cost of her own power or her own life. This is like the ultimate sacrifice. This is what an Archon would do for the people, and some people think that the Archons are evil. Are you crazy? This is complete selflessness. Even a step further is what happens with Scaramouche. She decides to show mercy to her own enemy and to try to rehabilitate him and take care of him, take him under her wing and try to show him basically what he was never shown before. Right from wrong and, you know, sympathy and compassion, someone to be there for you. This is what she's doing for her enemy? This is complete selflessness, because so many things could go wrong. Anyway, even though I really love the theme of all of the Dendro stuff and Sumeru and things like that, I love the aesthetic. But it's not just that, it's like Dendro has a special place in my heart because, like, as in INFJ, I feel by like default, we are all Dendro. Like, we don't have a choice. This is how our souls are wired to resonate. So I would be Dendro. I don't have a choice. Anyway, this video is pretty long as it is. When more Dendro characters come in the future, sure, I would make another video about it, but also they're just gonna have to fall under this pattern anyway. They're gonna have to get their visions by a selfless means, period. There is no other way. If what Genshin is doing is actually Gnosticism, it will match regardless. Also, I'm planning to make videos for each and every element, explaining how every vision is unlocked and comparing all of the stories of that element to its Gnosticism Tree of Life comparison. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.